Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our session. We'll say welcome and hello in many different languages today, although I'll say it in one. I'm Angela Sullivan. I work out of the Recovery International Chicago headquarter office. So we do have an office there as well as San Diego. Today, I'm so pleased to be joined by our Los Angeles area folks, Celinda and Lynn, and a couple others. From Recovery International, you'll see Jenna and Andrea and Jean, and I'm kind of floating through everyone here to see if I miss someone. But we do have some of our Recovery International people who are joining us today, and that's going to be helpful as we do an example panel for you in a little bit. So before we get started, I'm going to let Celinda introduce herself, then Lynn, then we'll get right back into our program. Go ahead, Celinda.
Okay, thank you, and good morning, everybody. And I just wanted to correct that I'm actually part of the Los Angeles area team. So Jenna is our actual contact with headquarters, and there's several others of us that work together on that. I did find recovery when I was committed to Camarillo State Hospital, and thank goodness, because I might still be there if I hadn't found it. But I really did find that it was the roadmap to get well, and that doesn't mean it was easy, but it took practice. But I knew what to do when I found recovery. So it's been a joy to be in. I've been in a leader for 55 years now. So, and I use it every day. So, and I'll turn it over to Lynn.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lynn Tumpa, and what brought me to recovery was a diagnosis of depression at the age of 17. And I found RI after deep searching for solutions in 2021. And I will say that I have regained my mental health by reading Dr. Lowe's books and attending RI meetings. And I'm happy to be here today. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Lynn. So I didn't share myself. I've been here for about 2.5 years with Recovery International. I'm the person who didn't know I needed recovery until I learned recovery. My mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And we'll talk about that not being a trivial situation, but some of what she did certainly was. And those are the things that got me worked up. So I had anger about those and I had frustration. And I didn't realize this program that this company I was working for was really going to help me with what I was dealing with in my personal life. So I want to do that reminder that this is very helpful for those who are caregivers to someone with a physical or emotional or mental disability as well. I also have 2 teenagers, so I use recovery at least twice a week. They're good kids, but they're teenagers. So a little bit of background about Recovery International. We have been around for 85 years now, just over 85 years now. And our founder was Dr. Abraham Lowe, who was a neuropsychiatrist. He is credited as being one of the founders of cognitive behavioral training before that was even a term. So back when he was developing this, there was no such thing as CBT. But his approach to dropping judgment and replacing the negative thoughts with positive thoughts in these tools were all the foundation of CBT. We are a self-help model, and we have over 300 peer leaders all around the country. We even have programs in Canada and Ireland, and in India. So we have meetings all over the place all the time, and they're in person, by Zoom, phone, and chat. The thing about those is this is a consistent approach. It's a consistent 4-step method. So no matter where you join and what part of the country, you would, once you learn the method, you're comfortable going to any of those. So the Mental Health Through Will training book you're seeing here is the main book that we find these tools that you'll hear us talking about today. And there are some other books that I'll show you in a little bit. So I'm going to cover some of these main concepts. Trivialities. This is a term that we use, but I don't want you to think that we're trivializing what you're feeling. Okay. This is about, recovery is unique in that it focuses on these common average events that can get us worked up. Okay. So we're thinking of things like, you're headed to work and you got a flat tire. You missed your stop on the train or the bus. Maybe you've got some computer issues, some obstacle to you getting done what you need to get done. Something that might delay you. You know, in that Los Angeles area, I don't know, do you have traffic? Could this possibly be an issue that gets people worked up? I don't know. I've been out there a few times. You know, being stuck in traffic, it's making you late for a meeting or an appointment. Inconsiderate people on the expressways who just cut you off, who just went in front of you, right? Or anyone have kids that maybe don't clean up their rooms or don't do what you ask, right? All of those things can be considered those inconsiderate things that can get us worked up. And frequent annoyances. Social media, that's a big thing right now, obviously, for maybe younger generations of what they're posting and how many likes they get or shares, or it could just be what you're reading on social media. So there's a number of things that can fall into this category of what we call trivialities. They're average and common that most people deal with. So with that, I'd like to open this up right now and ask if anyone who's joining us today maybe has a trivial situation, right? Average common event that happened in the last couple of days, the last week, whatever it is, that would fall under this, that maybe started to get you worked up. Anyone care to share something they experienced? I'm just kind of flipping through. I see Jenna's hand up. Jenna, go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, I have a friend and she needed me to take her to the airport, and I said I would, but then she was running late and it just made me really nervous. Like, she's the one who's going to miss the plane, but she was like, she was just had a chicken with her head cut off. So it worked me up because I was just like, okay, you need to be there. I'm driving you. I don't want to be blamed for you being late. Kind of thing.
Very good example of a trivial situation. Thank you. Celinda, how about you?
Yeah, I went to pick up my taxes, which is clear across town for me. And I got there, and then my tax guy realized he really hadn't completed my things, and that was annoying to me.
Good. Another good example. Jean, I see your hand up.
Yes, we take our trash cans out in the morning, and I had said to my husband, "Are you going to move your car so we can start taking the trash cans out?" And he very gruffly said, "You know, I really have to finish what I'm writing on this email first." And that's when I, had a reaction to that would have sabotaged me if I hadn't have had my recovery training.
Good. Thank you for sharing, Jean. Anyone else care to share any of those kind of average common situations? They're not a big deal in the scheme of things, right? But annoying enough where it could get you worked up. And feel free to put it in the chat as well. Andrea, go ahead.
Well, you talked about it's more the computer. Like, I'm always being bumped offline when I'm on a meeting because my internet always crashes, and that's really annoying. Yeah,
technology makes for wonderful examples. We get a lot of them. It's something average and common we can all relate to and deal with. So thanks for sharing those. Earlier I had mentioned that, my mom had Alzheimer's. So Alzheimer's is not trivial, and certainly that as a medical diagnosis, definitely not trivial. But some of the things she did were causing me to get worked up. Being asked the same question 20 times in 5 minutes, for instance, right? Getting her days and nights mixed up so she'd call me at 2 a.m. In the scheme of things, those are trivial. And I use this program to really help work through some of those issues. Oh, I saw something in the chat. A neighbor who screams at his video games and has music blaring, making it hard to focus on my task. That's another good one. And we're going to talk about outer environment here in just a little bit. So that's definitely outer environment. So I'm going to move on to another main concept that we have. When you typically think of temper, if you've never been in through Recovery International's program before, temper is typically thought of as I'm mad at someone else. And on the left side, you see that angry temper in blue. Angry temper is the judgment that a person or a situation is wrong or someone has wronged me. And typically you might feel irritated by that person. You might resent them, be disgusted by them, so that those emotions are all outward. They're to someone else. However, Dr. Lowe introduced us to another concept, and that's thinking about our own reactions and judgment about ourselves. And so fearful temper is probably a new term for a lot of people here. Feelings related to fearful temper. This is, I feel bad about saying something nasty to someone. I didn't really mean it, but it kind of came out that way. And now I'm worried about how they're going to take that, or I feel embarrassed about it. You might be in a situation where you're feeling some hopelessness, or that whatever you just did at work, maybe that little slip up at work is going to damage your own reputation. So we'll introduce these again during our example period, but we judge ourselves, right? We judge others, we judge ourselves. And this program is about learning to drop that judgment. So I said that outer environment. So I'm going to have you guys indulge me here for a moment. If you just kind of reach your hand out in front of you, stretch your arm out as long as you can, wiggle the tips of your fingers. And if you're in a spinny chair, hey, just spin around if you want to, just make it fun. But the thing is, up to the tips of your fingers is all we can control. So when I said outer environment before, the neighbor blaring his music and screaming, playing video games, unfortunately, we have no control over that. But there are things we do have control over: our inner environment, our own thoughts, our own impulses to do things. And those thoughts could be positive thoughts like, hey, this is really fun, right? I can do this. Or they could be maybe negative or discouraging thoughts like, he's annoying me, or I can't do this. And I'm a failure at this, right? So those are thoughts we have. We also have impulses in a situation. We might want to yell at someone who wouldn't move their car to get the garbage cans out of the way, for instance, right? Hello, right? You might have the urge to do that. And this is where recovery method can help you control that impulse and replace it with a different thought. So that's where we're going to focus in this program. Let's go back to this outer environment here, all those things that we can't control. That initial feeling we have in a situation, that initial anger, fear, or embarrassment, we really don't have control over that. And when I'm embarrassed, for instance, my face will get red, my neck, my chest will get red. That's a sensation. That's a physical response I cannot control. So yeah, even in your inner environment, there's a few things you can't control. Where we're focusing is on this right side. We're focusing on thoughts and impulses in this program. I hope that starts to make sense in a little bit. Our last very important concept is about self-endorsement. Let's not wait for someone to say, hey, good job, Lynn. Good job, Jean. Let's not wait for it. It may never happen, right? Our self-endorsement is about recognizing that we're taking steps for our own improvement, for our mental health or for anything else. And we're just going to do this little mental pat on the back. So I'm going to have everyone do that right now, right? Just take a moment and go, okay, what can I endorse for right now? You got up out of bed, maybe even earlier than normal because this session was having. You registered for this session, you joined it. You might be in a situation where you're helping other people with their mental health. Those are all wonderful things to endorse for. And so here's some tools that we often use when we endorse ourselves. We can't be blaming ourselves, right? You can't do both of those at the same time. We can endorse ourselves when we control our thoughts or our impulses. And finally, one important one here is that we put effort into things. It might not come out the way you want. However, you're going to endorse yourself for the effort you put into it. Okay. Not necessarily the end result or the performance. So these are important things, and you're going to hear this endorsing a lot in our program. And like I said, if you haven't endorsed for something yet already, please take a mental moment to do that. All right, so now I'm going to let Celinda talk about our meeting format and what you could expect if you join one of our meetings.
Thank you. And we like to have our meetings consistent. So if you go to a meeting anywhere in the country, you're going to find the same format so that you know what to expect and you feel comfortable with that format. So we start the meeting off just with a general welcome. And this, pertains to both our Zoom meetings and our in-person meetings. We always do a reading from one of Dr. Lowe's books, usually Mental Health Through Will Training, but he has others. And so we read a chapter or a part of a chapter from that book. And then we have a brief discussion asking people if they found a spot in that, because all the spots or tools that we use come from the books. They're not made up out of something else. And then we do introductions, and those vary a little bit depending on whether you're in person, in a Zoom meeting, whether the meeting is large or small. So some of the larger meetings, we may particularly welcome the newcomers, but everybody else has their name in the box, and we generally know one another. But the important part of the meeting is actually the giving of examples, where we're really learning. As we give an example, it's something everybody can practice on. So the example, we will talk more about the specific 4 steps that go into this method, but it really is the CBT method that we learn. And then a person includes some spots within their own example, but then we put them in a box where they can accept or reject anything that's said, because sometimes people weren't really listening and they might say something that just doesn't really pertain. So they don't say anything out loud, but they might just think, oh, well, that doesn't pertain. But often they'll think, oh, my gosh, I didn't think of that. That really nails it. So then the group is doing the spotting. And we do it in the third person, because by then, for one, it's less invasive. If you say you feel a little on the spot. But if you're just saying, I spot for the example giver, or I spot for Lynn, then it's a little more impersonal. So we go through that, and then we end up with an informal, we always ask if there's any questions and about recovery, or if somebody's struggling to master something or learn something, we go into that. So mutual aid is kind of an informal time. In a meeting, in a face-to-face meeting, we can break up in smaller groups and chat with people. In a Zoom meeting, we pretty much have to stay together, but we can find a time to answer any questions anybody has. And we always ask for a free will donation. We never turn anybody away if they aren't able to donate, but if they're able to, we always need that for supporting our organization and what we do. The leaders are all volunteers, so there's no payment to the leaders, but just to support the program. Next, yeah. So our peer leaders are all people that have lived experience. So I think I've mentioned I've been in for 55 years, and I started leading actually while I was at the hospital. So I have gained some experience over the years, but everybody who comes in, and there's no leader requirement. We don't have to know everything about recovery to be a leader. We just need to be practicing it for ourselves. We are trained, and we do continue our training on a monthly basis. So leaders can attend any of a number of leader meetings to make sure their skills are sharp. We offer participants hope. I would say if a new person comes in, it can be a little confusing. I kind of like learning a new language, but if they go away with the hope that they're going to be able to, this is going to help them, that's my real goal. And other participants, we all look to see progress in people. Sometimes people have very, very difficult challenges when they come to recovery, and a few years later, we see how much they have gained, even if they may still seem to be struggling a lot. We have over 250 active volunteer leaders, and we offer a safe place to discuss these items. Although we're not anonymous, we are confidential, so we don't share whatever happens in a meeting. It stays in the meeting. And we facilitate a change in attitude. One of our spots is, if you can't change a situation, you can change your attitude toward it. And that can be so helpful as we learn to exchange insecure thoughts for more secure thoughts, to practice bearing discomfort and using our spots and developing a sense of humor. Next. So we are not professionals, so we don't talk about medications, advice. We don't give advice. We don't offer any diagnoses. We don't care if somebody wants to give their diagnosis, but no diagnosis is required. And we don't get into philosophical discussions, partly because it takes us away from the nuts and bolts of really learning this method. So, and when I say we don't discuss medications, if somebody says, I called my doctor 3 times and they won't, renew my prescription, that might be fine for an example, but we don't get into, oh, my doctor gave me this new medication and boy, it's really great and I love it. Everybody should take it. We don't do things like that. And we focus on trivialities. So we don't discuss sex, religion, politics, legal issues, current events, or traumatic events. We may find a trivial aspect of one of those, but we find that they tend to lead to a lot of discussion that people have different points of view. So we just stay away from those items. Next. And here's our 4-step method. So we start with step 1 down here at the bottom is the situation. And we want to just be very brief. We don't need all the history. We just need to know that Jean mentioned getting the trash cans out. And that we don't need to go into, my husband is always reluctant to interrupt something he's doing, blah, 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 blah. We just say, like she did, that she was trying to get the trash cans out. So very brief, what got you worked up? And then the second step is reporting our physical discomfort. So sometimes we're not even aware that we're clenching our teeth or our fists, or feeling stressed and tension in the neck and shoulders. And then we want to think about what are we thinking? I'm so angry that, he won't move his car when I want to put the trash cans out. And why does he always do this? And whatever other thoughts we're having. And then the third step is where we get to identifying, okay, so what kind of temper is that? I have angry temper because he won't move the car. And I have some fearful temper because what if we don't get the trash out and it's overflowing and I really need to get it out before the trash truck comes. And so we're identifying, then we do our spots. We apply the tools that we have learned in recovery and we'll be demonstrating those. And then we endorse ourselves for the effort that we make. And the last step is then what happened before we had our recovery training, because even if we don't think we've made any progress, usually by the time we get to that 4th step and so we go, oh yeah, I really did do it very differently this time than I would have before recovery. Next. Okay, are we ready to demonstrate an example? And Lynn, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'll lead this example to show you how it goes. And Andrea is going to give us an example. And can I have a volunteer who would like to read the first step? And I would ask that you read what the red on the left, please. I don't see hands, so I don't
Jenna is
know
raising
how
her
to-
hand. So Jenna,
Okay, Jenna, please.
Absolutely. Report a single situation or event that occurred, an everyday event when you began to work yourself up. Focus on a brief description of what happened, specifically what triggered temper and symptoms.
So I have anxiety almost every night, and it doesn't matter where I am or what I'm doing. And so last night I was sitting at home around 7 p.m. I'm making dinner, I don't even know. And I just felt anxious and began to work myself up.
Great. Step 2, please.
Report the symptoms you experience, both physical and mental. For instance, angry and fearful thoughts, confusion, palpitations, disturbing impulses, tightness in your chest, lowered feelings, sweaty palms, and so on.
So I felt tense, my stomach hurt. I felt like I was moving more slowly than normally. And we had something we call feelings of unreality. Everything just felt sort of surreal. I had angry thoughts of, questioning, why does this keep happening to me almost every evening? I have fearful thoughts that this will just get worse. And, maybe my illness is coming back in a different way. And then my impulse is just, and sometimes this happens when I'm at, but so it's not good. but so I just feel like hiding away somewhere and not being around other people.
Great. Step 3, please.
Report your spotting of angry and fearful temper, the RI tools you use to help yourself, and your self-endorsement for your effort.
So I have what we call angry temper, just at fate, at the mental or nervous. I feel I have what we call fearful temper. If I'm at work, if there's kind of a threat to the social personality, which I'm just embarrassed, basically. Maybe I did something wrong, I don't know. I feel like I did something wrong. So that's fearful temper. I have a fear of the permanent handicap, imagination on fire, but then I spot which is to know is not to know. Return of the symptoms does not mean a return of the illness. I can practice objectivity. Objectivity terminates panic. I'm sabotaging in the form of diagnosis. We're not supposed to diagnose ourselves. And then I can function with symptoms. I could go on, but that's probably enough for today. And then I just endorse by moving my muscles and making a business of my mental health.
Step 4, please.
Begin with, before I had my recovery training, and describe the temperamental reaction and symptoms you would have experienced in former days. What would have happened then versus what happened now?
So before recovery, I had anxiety pretty much 24 hours a day. And I also had depression and other symptoms, and I couldn't keep a job because I was so anxious. I couldn't go to work. So that was before recovery, and even just taking care of my house or dealing with everyday things produced anxiety, and I didn't function very well before recovery. But now I have a job and it's that's it. Thanks.
Thank you for a well-reported example, Andrea. Now, Andrea goes into a glass box, and the panel uses the spots that you see on the screen now to help help the example giver with their inner environment. And with that, I will start with a spot. Feelings are not facts, and I cannot see the hand, so I don't know how to do it.
I will help you with that. I see Celinda's hand up.
Great.
Yeah, and I would spot that she's bearing discomfort, and I hope she's endorsing for bearing that discomfort and her spotting.
And Jenna, I see your hand.
Yes, treat your mental health as a business and not a game. And also the before and after, you can definitely see the endorsements.
Jean?
This one, oh my goodness, I had a brain burp there. Every act of self-control brings a measure of self-esteem. It strengthens our nerve resistance for the next event.
Okay, and I had a spot I'd like to share. When feeling overwhelmed, do things in part acts. And I'm going
I
to
have-
scroll through. Go ahead, Lynn.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a spot to share. When we feel our worst and try our hardest is when we make the greatest gains. And the example giver is treating her mental health as a business and not a game.
And I see Celinda's hand up again.
Yeah, I like that Andrea recognized that she was making a diagnosis and that's sabotage for us when we diagnose ourselves. That's the professionals area.
Thank you, Jean.
To go along with that same thing, we have to take the danger out of an event. Our symptoms are uncomfortable, but they're not dangerous.
Thank you, Jenna. Oh, you're on mute, Jenna.
Sorry about that. Self-appointed expectations lead to self-induced frustrations.
All right, Lynn, back to you.
Yes, and when we take care of our inner environment, the outer environment takes care of itself.
So I want to point out for people who are just joining and new to this, we have some of these tools up on the screen. We haven't said all of them. There are still some that you find might apply to the situation the example giver gave. So if there's anyone who's new and you'd like to say one of these spots or tools that could be helpful, please go ahead, raise your hand, or again, you can type it out in the chat and let us know what you think. I was taught by someone who said, if you don't know what tool or spot to use, you can kind of just close your eyes and, wave your finger and pick, because many of these work in just about any situation. There are hundreds. I mean, we're talking like 400 tools. So this is just a very small sample of them. So do we have anyone who wants to offer or lend a spot? No? Well, I'll let it go right back to you then, Lynn. Go ahead.
Okay, another spot that I have is when we endorse ourselves for the effort, not only for the performance. And I see a chat there from Billy saying the example giver was self-led and not symptom-led. Thank you, Billy. Yes. And there are no right or wrongs in the trivialities of everyday life.
All right, I'm gonna just do one more kind of sweep around. Celinda, I see your hands up.
Yeah, now I'm gonna forget what I was gonna say. To know is to know we don't know why she gets these feelings, and she just deals with them when they come.
Okay, thank you. All right, Lynn, I'll have you take us through the big five.
Great, and the big five is just a highlight of what we do in the example as an education tool. So the angry temper is where we see negative judgments that the example giver gave, and I will say that I'll spot the example giver's angry temper at the situation, some disgust and impatience at her symptoms and the condition itself. And then moving on to fearful temper is where we had the fear inside of ourselves, including negative judgments. Celinda, where do you see the fearful temper here in this example?
I think that she somehow is blaming herself that she still has those symptoms, but we know that we don't know why they come.
Yes. And now the two tempers, we identify the tempers, and now we identify the muscle movement. So where do we see the muscle control in this example, controlling the impulse to do something that would be detrimental for our mental health? And she did not run and hide. And that is really controlling our muscles. And that's what we learn here. And then muscle movement, commanding the muscles to do something that we're resistant to do, like, for example, attending an RI meeting. Would anybody like to say where they saw the muscle movement in this example? She kept working, that's for sure. That's
And
what
Jean has her hand up. Yep.
That's what I was going to say, is that she did the thing that she didn't want to do. She kept moving her muscles, maybe working on the computer or writing or talking, wearing the mask, so that and it's not how we feel, it's how we function. And that's what she did. She functioned while she was uncomfortable with her symptoms.
Excellent. And then last but not least, we talk about sabotage, which is not good or bad. It's just an opportunity to see where we're repeating our behavior. Where did we set ourselves up to have symptoms? Who would like to speak on where they saw sabotage? Again, it's not good or bad. It's just information.
Linda has her hand up.
Yeah, I just don't think I heard Angela really endorsing herself for all that discomfort that she's bearing, and her effort to function through it.
And Jenna
Yes, and
has her-
Dr.
oh,
Lowe,
sorry.
Jenna?
Yeah, maybe in the reviewing and previewing, this always happens every night. So in some of the verbiage that she was using.
Yes. Temperamental lingo is bound to create a despondency of mood, says Dr. Lowe. Anybody else? And we do like, is there anybody else?
Jean has her hand up.
Okay, Jean?
I also wanted to talk about the ability to endorse herself more. We learn to endorse ourselves when we're first in recovery, even though it might feel not sincere, but we endorse for just the efforts of even remembering the one or two tools to use. And it comes easier in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. And then we do like to end on a positive note. And where can we where can the example giver endorse? She can endorse for treating her mental health as a business and not a game.
And Celinda's hand is up.
Yeah, she
Okay.
didn't put a ceiling on the amount of discomfort she was willing to bear. So that always helps us.
And I
And,
saw
go ahead. Mhm.
Jenna's hand up.
Jenna?
Yeah, she can endorse for giving the example today. Big time.
And Jean's hand is up.
Well, I'd like to just reinforce what Jenna said about it's very group-minded to give an example because we all learn from it. It's not only for yourself, but it's for the group. Also, I forgot the other one, so oh well.
And
Very good.
I think the example giver can endorse for recognizing the improvement that she's made over time using this method.
Well, thank you, panel. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Jenna, for reading. And that is the simple 4-part method. I'll
Thank
turn
you
it back
so much.
over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lynn, for leading that. We thought we would stop right here. We have a little bit more of a presentation to give, but we thought we'd stop right here just because you've now seen this recovery method, this 4-step structure. And we'll open it up to questions. And actually, I'm going to stop sharing so I can see everyone a little bit better. But any questions about that? For those of you who are brand new to this, you've never heard of the recovery method or seen how this could help if you're peer leaders yourself, how this might be a helpful addition to how you help your peers? Any questions, thoughts, comments? How about initial reaction to this? Some of this language that you've just heard is new. Some of these terms are new. Any kind of feedback from that? I see something in the chat. I attend a Tuesday morning group and it's amazing. I've seen a big change in my life. Well, thank you, Gwen. Thank you very much for sharing that. And I did get a chat earlier about, can we get the PowerPoint? So I know Cher is recording this session, so I'm sure that'll be available for everyone afterward. If anyone is interested in this PowerPoint, send me an email, angela@recoveryinternational.org, and I will send that to you. Jean, I see your hand up.
Recovery really made my life much more successful. But the cool thing that I really liked about recovery is I'm not sure, I'm kind of a goofy person. I don't always believe the way other people believe, and I don't like, and I was able to still do that. And it helped me with so much with my self-esteem that I didn't have to change anything else. I didn't have to eat special food. It's very simple. Not easy, kind of boring, but I encourage anybody to.
Thank you, Jean. I see a little chat here from Ariel. At first, I wasn't sure about it, but it's actually very helpful. I do a lot of these things myself already. So yeah, I mean, this is, again, it's CBT based. And if you've been in a program before that has that CBT to it, yeah, you recognize you're replacing that judgment or those negative thoughts with something more secure. I love the term recovery. Someone said, really important. Muscle movement is very important, right? I said, you can endorse this morning for getting out of bed early. And maybe you didn't feel like it, right? Maybe you needed the extra 10 minutes, but you got here to do this. Jenna, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I'm sure you're going to do this, but where can people find the meetings? Are you going to post?
Yeah, let me
where they
take a
can find them?
moment to do that right now. So there's a couple things I want to post. Thank you for reminding me about that. So first of all, we have, for people who are new to this, we have a website, recoveryinternational.org, but specifically we have a newcomer page. And actually, I don't even mind showing that to you for a quick moment, because I think we've got the time for that. So let me share my screen. I'm going to show you that newcomer page. And then I'm also going to put a link in here where you can find a welcome packet. So those terms and those basic concepts I went over before are available. So here's our website if you haven't been here. If you're looking for a meeting, we have 170 meetings a week. Where I really think you should start, though, if you're a newcomer, is we've got, you can search a meeting by day. If you're looking for something in person, we have those here as well. But really where I think you should start is the newcomer welcome meeting. We have one on Tuesdays and we have one on Wednesdays. So those buttons are here in the meeting page, but they're also right here if you click on the newcomer page. You're going to have a short video of an example period. So, again, you get what Lynn just led with Andrea's example. There's that newcomer welcome meeting or on Tuesday or Wednesday. And then I'm going to put a link to this, but this is our welcome packet. And this welcome packet tells you, this is what you could expect in a meeting, as well as here are those concepts that I went over. And then importantly, just to get you started, I'm going to scoot down here. Here, just to get you started, you can start doing this on your own. Construct your own example. Here's a worksheet, right? You can start writing out those situations that are working you up. And here's some tools you can start using for that. Okay. So you don't necessarily have to buy all those books that we were talking about, right away. You've got some of those right there. So I invite you to explore that website. And like I said, I'm going to go ahead and put the link to the newcomer packet in there. Give me one quick second to do that. And there you go. Any other questions or any comments about this? I'm fairly new. Again, 2.5 years is fairly new compared to people who have been practicing recovery for a long time. And yeah, the language was interesting, right? It took some time to get used to, and I have a few favorite tools, but I learn new ones nearly every day. My daughter made it through middle school with the tool. People do things that annoy us, not necessarily to annoy us. That was her favorite. And seriously, that got her through 8th grade. So yeah, it could be helpful to so many people. Jean, I see your hand up. Oh, you're on mute though.
I just wanted to say that even though the language seems to be a little bit odd, the reason that Dr. Lowe wanted a different language was that when we use some of the common language today, it has so many different meanings to different people, and it can work people up more. And he wanted to avoid temperamental lingo that would work us up, and kind of replace it with words that had a common meaning. Thanks.
Thank you, Jean. All right, well, if there's nothing else, I'm going to go right back to our PowerPoint, and we'll go ahead and introduce you to
yesterday because I was having these issues yesterday.
Sue. I hear you. Did you have a comment?
I'm so sorry.
Oh,
No,
that's okay.
I'm so sorry. I've been working on my let me mute.
Okay. So we do have a couple of introductory books. This one in particular is geared toward the teens and young adults. It's called Power Your Mind, Tools to Build Resilience. It is in a graphic novel storytelling style, so basically comics. And we have characters in here that are dealing with social issues, anger, relationships. It's kind of those really typical teenage, young adult issue, although anyone at any age deals with those. But the way the stories are set up are typical for that age group. This is available on Amazon or in our bookstore. It's $19.95 right now, and I'm working on getting that price down a little bit by having just a little more condensed version. But it is available on Amazon, and I will go ahead and let you, I think I have a link for that too. I'll put in a little bit later. Let me go to this next one. This is how I like to talk about this program. We know there's stigma around mental health. We also know that this particular method can be used by anyone. You don't have to have a diagnosis of anything to use this. You can use it to control your anger, alleviate your anxiety, develop better relationships, right? Establish those realistic expectations. All these are life skills. And that's how I like to talk to teens and young adults about it. Learn these life skills now, and this program will help you do that. And this can save you a lot as you get older. So and I'm putting some of these slides here. We've already gone over this, but I just want to show you some of the graphics in the book, right? And how we set that up. So the very first chapter, we talk about angry and fearful temper. We're doing that in a way that is relatable, we hope, to this age group. An angry temper, you might have a teenager, my brother's always getting me in trouble. I hate her for saying I can't take the car to the party. I'm sick of waiting. She can't decide. He's always late and ruining my night. A lot of temperamental lingo in there, first of all, but that's all directed at someone else. It's someone else's fault. Versus the fearful temper and what someone might experience. I can't believe I did bad on the test. Am I stupid? Maybe I shouldn't even try anymore. I don't get this topic. I'm so embarrassed. I got called out in class for looking at my cell phone, right? Those are all kind of common judgments that we would make. And again, this program is about learning to drop that judgment. Jean, your hand's up. Go ahead.
I really like the fact that we have identified fearful temper. I never realized how low my self-esteem was. And as a eighth grader, or a seventh grader, ninth grader, you can either try to fix your self-esteem, strengthen it. I mean, it's not our fault. Who knows why you have low self-esteem? I wasn't a bad person, but I had low self-esteem. And using these tools, and like you said, your daughter or somebody's daughter got through eighth grade because they learned how to reassure themselves that they're an average person. They're not exceptionally bad, and that their low self-esteem wasn't based on any true facts, you know, and that boy, it sure made a difference for me. Wish I'd had it younger, but.
Well, thank you, Jean. I appreciate that comment, because that exact comment, I wish I had it when I was younger, is what we heard from so many of our Recovery International members, which is why we developed this program just recently. It just launched in the fall of 2020. So yeah, this is the idea. Hey, let's get this in the hands of kids as they're younger and see if that could help them as they advance through life. So I just want to give you a sense of what one of our stories is about. We have 6 characters. This is Max. Max is outside of a movie theater waiting for a friend, and she's late. So here he is, kind of going to see so you could see these panels better. Terry is late. We're going to miss the start of the movie. I'm really steamed. You can see all the little like water droplets, right, coming off of his head there. Then Max has already taken this program. So we're going to go into Max's brain here. Meanwhile, in Max's mind, he's pretty angry. As his conscience, how can we help him turn his frustrations into something positive? Maybe he doesn't have to blame or accuse anyone or control how he acts or reacts to something that's already happened. Outer environment, the past, you can't control it. Or let anger keep him from seeing both sides of the story or take it personally. So we're going to go back to Max and see what his response is. You know what? I don't know why she's late. Maybe she's stuck in traffic or something else is going on. And he realizes, you know, there's other movies and we can see something else if she's really late. So with this first chapter and taking kids through this, we're going to focus on Max, right? We're not going to do what Lynn did. We're not going to call someone out and say, hey, does anyone have an example? Nope, we're just focused on these characters. But if you can help me, what kind of temper do you see that Max is experiencing? Angry or fearful, maybe even both? Anyone care to participate and tell me what you think about Max in this situation as he's waiting for his friend at the movie theater? Who is he angry at? Jenna.
He's angry at his friend
Nice.
for not showing up on time.
Being late. Okay. Any other temper that you think Max might be experiencing here? I want you to, Celinda, go ahead.
Yeah, I think he might be blaming himself, like, did I do something wrong? Did I make her mad? Did it, why didn't she let me know?
Good, thank you. Yeah, I mean, picture yourself standing out there waiting for your friend all by yourself as you see all these people going into the movie theater. You might be thinking, oh, Ariel, thank you. I think he's experiencing angry temper, but he's also mad at himself for blaming himself. Thank you for that. Yeah, absolutely. And you could be embarrassed or ashamed. You're standing there by yourself. A lot could be happening. What do you think some of the symptoms are that Max is experiencing? Can we tell that he's getting worked up? It's kind of hard to tell in these comics. But I've got someone, his imagination is running away with himself. Yeah. Any symptoms you think? I mean, we saw the little sweat beads coming off of him there. So he's clearly getting worked up. And I know it's hard to tell from a picture. Yeah, I am steamed. Michael, thank you. Yep, he's anxious. He's worried. He's steamed. I see like a little clenching of the jaw happening over there. Maybe he's holding his phone a little tighter too, right? Lynn, go ahead.
Yeah, sweating, furrowed brow, tenseness. And he's not, he can't, yeah, it looks like he's really in his brain, and that's where the symptoms are. It's just like right there. Yeah.
Yep. And Ariel said, yeah, he looks like he's overwhelmed. Right. So again, we're just focusing this on his symptoms, right? Like just looking at this person. We're not examining ourselves yet. So given his situation, what tools did Max use? What did you hear him use? Or what could he have used? So we've got a list and we break these up. I said there's hundreds. In this book alone, we give 160 tools in Power Your Mind, but we break them up in segments. We don't want kids to be a little overwhelmed by hearing about so many. So here are some that could apply for angry temper. And again, did you see if, did you hear him use anything, or could he have used something in this situation? I welcome your responses. Ariel said he could have given his friend the benefit of the doubt. So in RI terms, we might say the tool is we don't know what we don't know, right? To know is to not know. Or we excuse rather than accuse ourselves of others, because that is kind of the benefit of the doubt, right? We don't know what's going on. Jenna, go ahead.
Calm begets calm, temper begets temper.
Good. That's good. Anyone else? Yep. How much we don't know, right? To know is to not know. Like I said, my daughter loved that one, fourth from the bottom. People do things that annoy us, usually not to annoy us. And another thing, the wisdom, here's that last one. Temper keeps us from seeing the other side of the story. If we're so angry about the situation, we don't know there could be something going on, right? Maybe she is stuck in traffic. So this is how we introduce the method and the tools just a little bit at a time, chapter by chapter. The next chapter in this is all about fearful temper. Ultimately, we get to about 4 chapters in, we get to introducing these 4 steps that you heard of before. But again, we're focusing that on the character in the book. Step 1, here's Max's step 1. What was the event? I was waiting for a friend. She was late. That's when I got worked up. It's really that simple. Step 2, his symptoms. We pointed out some of these out: clenching my jaw, thinking angry thoughts. Step 3, his temper and tools and the endorsement piece all goes into step 3. I was afraid she blew me off and she didn't care to show up. I was angry she kept me waiting. I spotted that I should excuse, not accuse. I endorsed for realizing I can control my reaction. And then finally, that step 4, before and after. Well, before this, I would have yelled at her when she got there. We would have fought. It would have ruined the whole evening. Now, that piece wasn't really in the comic, but if a typical situation, that's the likely what would have happened. But instead, he went to plan B. There's always kind of a plan B, and you can figure out something else. So within the 7 chapters of this book, we introduce a lot of tools, some specifically for trivialities, fearful temper, will, for endorsing, angry temper. There are so many tools that we introduce in this program. So I just wanted to give you a quick little taste of that. We also mentioned some additional resources. There are the first couple books here that are used in meetings. The intro books that I had mentioned, the Power Your Mind, and then this one with the 2 blue and yellow silhouette here, Better Mental Health for Everyone, is an intro book as well for really just geared more toward adults. All of these comments, all of these tools that we had mentioned, and all of these concepts are in there. And then there's power tool cards, which I find really helpful. If you don't know, you just kind of pick from a stack of cards, because anything could really help you in a situation. Go ahead, Celinda.
Oh, I didn't want to interrupt, but I noticed that Jessica said she went to the page to find a meeting and nothing showed up. And I think she said you have to be a member, and you don't have to be a member to attend a meeting. And Angela can help you figure out why
Thank you.
she didn't find
Yeah.
anything.
Maybe Jenna or Jean, you can click on that link that I put in there, make sure everything's okay. But yeah, you shouldn't have to be a member. There are some meetings in particular you do have to be a member for, but there aren't that many of them. Typically, there's some phone meetings, but you should be able to get on that. And again, either access that from the newcomer page or from the meeting page. And so here's that, if you're ready to join a meeting Tuesdays and Wednesdays, go to that newcomer page on recoveryinternational.org. We also have a training page. There's lots of videos on there to get you up to speed. And here's contact information. So Angela at recoveryinternational.org. If you have questions, and I know we do still have some time right now to take some questions. So I'll just leave this up for a second more. I'm going to put it back in the chat so you can contact me. I wish Recovery International wasn't so long to spell.
I see Jean has her hand up.
All right, Jean, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm not very good about going to other websites when I'm in Zoom. I always get kicked out. But can you run through finding meetings on the website? This isn't the first time I've heard it. It's a little bit challenging to find it. I don't know if, Angela, if you have that ability to do that while you're live here, but that would be really cool.
I do. Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
looking at it too, Angela.
And it's okay.
I just got to it. So
Okay.
give me a
Just
sec.
give people instructions on how it works.
Yeah. So, how to find a meeting. It's right here. So there's some information. If you don't know what kind of meeting you want to join, or you want to see the difference between all the meeting types, there's an explanation of them. Chat meetings are, you type it on your keyboard. It's a live chat, but it happens in the moment. Community meetings take place in person. There's, depending on where you live, in the Los Angeles area, there's a couple in-person meetings. I have to say, because of COVID, a lot of our in-person meetings went to Zoom and phone and just haven't gone back. Obviously by telephone, so you wouldn't be showing your face if you don't want to. And Zoom, just the same platform. So we have all of those. We also have, if you're a member, we have a Facebook page. And the Facebook page, you can post anytime, any day, and then someone's always kind of adding to your example. So that's if you don't know what kind of meeting you want to attend. What to expect at a meeting in Zoom etiquette, I think those are pretty self-explanatory. If I'm looking for a meeting today, for instance, I'm going to go to Wednesday, and this comes up, and it's all pretty big because, like I said, we have 170 meetings a week. So every day there are a lot of meetings. But you're looking at the start time. Anything is chat or phone or Zoom is all in Eastern time. So really pay attention to the time zone. If you choose a Zoom meeting, for instance, this Zoom welcome meeting is 3 o'clock Eastern, which means it happens at noon Pacific time. And there's a link here. So you're going to click on this link to register, and it's going to get you right over here to this registration page where Rexy is your host for that meeting. You put your information in, asking you a few little questions, and you register, and then Zoom is going to give you a link to join that.
Do you have to do that every time you join a meeting?
No, you should only need to do it one time. Okay.
For each meeting, you do it one time?
Right. Once you do it once, you should be registered, and then you could just keep that link and always use that same link. Okay. We do have meetings in Spanish, and we have a list of those right there. We are also just about to launch a welcome meeting in Spanish in the month of May. So we'll be posting that soon as well. So this will tell us what meetings are actually in person in your area. So California comes up first because this is all alphabetical. And you can see there's an Oakland, a Santa Ana, there is a Los Angeles. This is Jean, who's on this call with us. This is Jean's meeting at the Share downtown location. And she actually does a hybrid with Zoom as well.
Is that in
There's-
Eastern time on this?
No, anything that's in person is just in the regular time zone. So is that not right? 11 Pacific?
I can't see it. What does it say?
11 Pacific?
Should
Oh,
be
I'm
the-
sorry, wrong one. 1:30 Pacific on Wednesday.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
sorry.
yeah. So you can just kind of scroll down here, and I don't know if I have anyone joining
Yeah,
us today
Lynn
from out of
has-
state.
Yeah, Lynn has an in-person meeting on Thursdays in Mar Vista at 3 p.m.
Thank you. There she is, right there. Thursdays, 3 o'clock, Disability Community Resource Center, Lynn Tumpa. All right. So that's how you go about finding meetings. And hopefully it's easy enough to navigate. I know, going to anyone's website for the first time can be a little overwhelming. I see a couple questions in this chat. Yeah, you don't have to be a member. If you want to be, there's some additional benefits that come with that. And membership is pretty low at $35 a year. And at the end of the meeting, we would ask for a free will donation. If you have a couple dollars, you can donate. Even virtually, you can do that. We give a QR code so you can pop in with your phone and donate. If you're in person, you might put a couple dollars in a basket, right? But we don't turn anyone away if you can't pay. So that is available. You don't have to be a member. I think you guys were trying to answer these for me. Thank you. All right. I'm going to do a time check because we just have a few minutes left. And are there any other questions about our program, about the website, about the Power Your Mind program for teens? Anything that we can answer?
I
was
just
just
wanted to
gonna say,
share
Jean-
about my comment that I made about the calendar being blank. When I went to your homepage and I scrolled down and there's a frequently asked questions link, and I was scrolling through that, it tells you on how many different meetings may I attend. It has a calendar link. And I clicked on that calendar link, and that's where it took me to a calendar that I couldn't find anything.
Oh,
So I
thank
don't
you,
know if that's
Jessica.
different.
Yeah, that one crashed on us. So I did something different and I totally forgot that link was there. So I will fix that right after this meeting. I really appreciate you telling me that.
No problem.
Thanks a bunch, Jessica.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Sorry.
I'll redirect that to the page that I was showing you guys. Thanks so much. Any other comments? Celinda or Lynn, I thought you guys were about to say, one of you were about to say something.
I can't remember what that was, but I just had myself a little example right here because somebody knocked on the door. Housekeeping is here. They want to come. And the person I'd called to say, please delay it, no longer works here.
Oh,
So that's my triviality for my meeting this afternoon.
I had a good one the other day. I was expecting a contractor to come this Saturday to look at a bathroom remodel job, and he showed up last Saturday. Did I have the bathroom clean? No. Did I have the dog put away? No. Did I just my husband was working? Yeah, that was my example just the other day. I did just put a link in the chat for the Better Mental Health Workbook. That's the intro workbook. If you're interested, it's $10.95 on Amazon. Jenna, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
I was wondering if it's okay if we kind of promote that we'll be at the NAMI walk this Saturday. And where is that again, Celinda? The
LA State Historic Park. It's on North Broadway in downtown.
Yeah, so if you look at the NAMI walk, if you go on the NAMI website and you look up Los Angeles area, there's going to be a wonderful event there this Saturday, and Recovery International will have a booth. So come on down and you can meet us and look at some of, I'm going to bring all my books and you can come and chat with us.
Thank you, Jenna. Yeah, that's wonderful. And you can look for people wearing that shirt that she has on, that bright blue, I support better mental health shirt. Thank you. Thank you for being my model, Vanna. Jean, go ahead.
Not to beat a dead horse, but when you go on to the Recovery International, sometimes known as RI website, and you click on a meeting and then you register, you were saying that the link is saved on your computer? I mean, like,
So-
what if you go back to the thing again because you've lost the link? Do you have to register again?
So our Zoom meetings are held in different ways. So this could be where some
Yeah.
of the confusion comes in. We have a recovery Zoom platform where some meetings are held, and those are the ones you have to register for. And when you do, that same Zoom link will get you in that meeting all year. So you want to save that Zoom link for yourself on a calendar or wherever you can. And
I don't know how to do those kinds
and
of
I can help you with Jet. Jean, we'll do a
Okay.
separate Zoom and I'll help you with that.
Well, the only reason I bring it up is that if it's hard for me, it's probably hard for others too.
Well, and then there's other people who lead meetings from their personal Zoom platform. So they don't have to register. And so you might see the meeting ID there. So the confusion comes in, I think, because people are doing it all a little bit differently. And then, of course, we have a lot of meetings on the Share platform. And they, of course, give the link and have the meeting ID available too. So yeah, Zoom is not as clear cut as it should be just because people use different platforms for it.
I
But I'm
see.
happy to go on with you separate and we can figure that out. Okay. And yes, someone put in here for Jenna put, you don't have to register for the Share meetings. Andrea, I see your hand up.
Yeah, to kind of answer Jean's question, because I did this before. I registered for one of those recovery sponsored or whatever platform meetings. I got an email, and as long as I saved the email, I was able to get back into the Zoom link. I was able to save it on my calendar too, but you don't need to, as long as you keep the email. But you can always register again. It's not a big deal. Because I had to do that because I deleted it or something happened, and so I just re-registered. So
Thanks,
it's
Andrea. Thank you very much for that.
5 seconds. So
Thank you. Yeah, because we do kick an email to you that says, here's the Zoom link. And that's a good point. Just save the email. All right. I think we are right at the last minute of our presentation. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I hope those of you who never heard about Recovery International and this method learn something. You take away maybe even a tool that you could use today if something works you up. And I hope to see that you're joining our welcome meetings or any of the share meetings that are run by Lynn, Jean, Celinda, Jenna, who are right on this call. So thank you. And thank you for my other recovery people who came on to support Andrea, especially for giving your example today. All right. I'm going to do a quick check of the chat before we leave. I have a lot of thank you so much. Thank you. We love the training. Appreciate that. Have a wonderful day, and hopefully people can get to some of the other sessions that are offered today at the conference.